So, you want to get better with Iron Man. We're going to go over his basic abilities, then go through an advanced guide to help you learn how to play the character correctly and climb the ranks. Now, Iron Man is a relatively simple character to learn, but hard to master. I'm going to be going through his basic abilities, but if you already understand how the character works, skip to this timestamp in the video to get straight to the advanced tips. Starting off with Iron Man's primary fire, we have Repulsor Blast. This is an area of effect projectile that does damage in a 3-meter radius. When you start to shoot, you'll fire with your right hand, then your left hand, and then with both hands. The shots fired individually with each hand do 55 damage in that 3-meter radius, and that last shot fired with both of your hands does 65 damage in a 5-meter radius. So just something for you to remember, that you kind of have a little shot combo with right hand, left hand, both hands, right hand, left hand, both hands. Moving right along to his alternate fire, Unibeam. This is a close-range laser that does 120 damage per second. An important thing to understand and keep track of is that your Repulsor Blast and Unibeam use the same ammo count. So when you're firing away with your Repulsor Blast, if you want to quickly switch to your Unibeam, it might be a problem seeing as they use the same ammo. Next up, we have Armor Overdrive. This ability gives you infinite ammo and buffs both your primary and secondary fire. Your Repulsor Blasts now move at 80 meters a second and have a permanent 5-meter radius, and your Unibeam does a whopping 180 damage per second. This is Iron Man's strongest ability. His Repulsor Blasts move faster, deal damage in a wider area, and as you can see, his Unibeam just chunks tanks. It is his go-to ability. It's on a 10-second cooldown, so it's in that mid-range of you can use it a lot, but it also is something you don't want to waste, so keep your eye on it as it's going to get a lot better when we get to the advanced tips. Next on, we're moving to Hyper Velocity. This allows you to gain a 100% movement boost in a forward direction, and according to the meter on the right side of your screen, it consumes 15% of that meter while you're flying, except when you use your Armor Overdrive, which then gives you an unlimited duration. This ability is really good for getting out of spawn. You can see the meter right there. It's also good for getting out of sticky situations and repositioning. Now, this ability and your Armor Overdrive link into our next ability, which I'll go over right now. Micro Missile Barrage is an ability that allows you to launch a cluster of missiles depending on which ability you use prior to activating your missiles. There are 2 different ways you can activate these missiles. When you're in hyper velocity, anytime during your flight you can launch 16 missiles that do 20 damage each in a 2-meter radius. They fly at 15 meters per second, and they will launch in the area below you. You really have no control where these missiles go, other than just directly under where you're flying. The alternative method is when you activate your Armor Overdrive, you can launch 18 missiles that do 15 damage in a 2-meter radius, and they move at 60 meters per second, and they will fly wherever your crosshair is aiming. Overall, these are okay abilities. They're not something you're going to want to be using for every single encounter, but it's a nice little tidbit of extra damage. Finally, we have Iron Man's ultimate, Invincible Pulse Cannon. Iron Man will launch a giant explosion from wherever he is at. It will travel in a straight line, dealing 300 damage per second for 2 seconds as soon as it makes impact, and then a whopping 1000 damage in an explosion. This is one of the best counter ults or team wipe ults in the game, but we'll get more into that in the advanced tips section of this video. So, we know how Iron Man works. Now we are going to get into the advanced portions of his kit, how to utilize him best in your games, and how to start winning more. Iron Man doesn't really perform differently like my previous video on Peni, linked in the description. You guys should go watch that one, it's pretty good. He performs pretty consistently across both of the game modes, so we're more just going to go over positioning, what to do with different characters and different supports on your team, different characters on the enemy team, who he counters, who counters him, and how to get the most out of Iron Man. We'll start with positioning. Iron Man, like many of the flying type characters in this game, has 3D mobility. He has his hypervelocity, which allows him to get to and from places pretty fast, but besides that, he really does move pretty slow most of the time. So putting yourself in the right spot to do the most for yourself and your team is really, really important. Staying close to walls, either high in the air or around the line of sight of your supports. Most of your positioning is actually going to change whether you're playing with your friends, other people in game chat, or solo queuing, playing when you're not talking with anyone. That really does change how you're actually going to want to play Iron Man. If you're playing with your friends or you have people in team chat that you can actually communicate with, you can play at the skybox, like as high as physically possible, because you're going to be able to communicate to your team when you're low, where exactly you are, and how to heal you most effectively. When you're outside of game chat or not playing with your friends, you really kind of want to play still pretty high, but in an area where your supports can actually see you, so they actually can heal you. And if you get, dove by a Spider-Man or shot at by a Hawkeye, Hela, or even a Psylocke, being able to be reliably healed is very important, because Iron Man, if you've played him, he can fall really, really fast. So just be careful where you are. Try and track where your team is at all times so you can receive decent support from your strategists. Another kind of trap/pitfall I see some Iron Man players get into is playing out in the open. Now, it is kind of easy to weave through an open area, but you really want to be cognizant of where the enemy team is and how out in the open you really are. I mean, just think of it like you're playing another character. Most people gravitate towards corners, towards walls, towards cover, because when you're only moving, forward, backwards, left, and right, it makes a lot more sense to hug a wall or stand behind cover and peek. When people play these flying characters, sometimes I just see them like all the way out in the open, and that's really an easy way to just get sniped out of the air by Hawkeye or Hela or Punisher. So, I mean, hey, even Namor can do some serious damage if he hits 2 headshots with his spears. So sticking to corners, knowing where the enemy team is, and keeping track of who the enemy is playing is going to seriously increase your total, the amount of value you get with Iron Man. Now, what takes Iron Man from a decent character that can put out a lot of DPS is his team up with Hulk. This gives you access to your Gamma Overdrive. Now, what happens with this is your beam and your repulsor blast will turn green, and you will pump out some serious damage. With your repulsor blasts, instead of doing 55 damage, they now deal 60, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you have to remember, your Overdrive repulsor blasts are a single shot instead of that combo that is always at a 5-meter radius. And your Unibeam, instead of it being 180 damage per second with your regular Overdrive, changes to 220 damage per second. I mean, Gamma Overdrive Unibeam is a tank shredder. It does not matter who is standing in front of you. If you keep that beam on them, anyone is gonna be dead if you hold it on them for 4 seconds, no matter how much healing they're getting. They're just dead. Speaking of absolutely destroying things, Iron Man's ult is the best anti-support ult in the game. Now, it's really nice because it says 300 damage per second, but really it's 2 ticks of 300 damage and then a massive 10-meter explosion of 1,000 damage. This allows you to essentially burn through a Luna Snow or a Mantis or even a Cloak and Dagger ult instantly, because instead of doing a lot of damage in small increments that the support ults can then heal, you are doing 1,000 flat damage instantaneously in a pretty large area. So you can kill a Luna Snow in her ult, you can kill a Cloak and Dagger in their ult, you can kill a Mantis in their ult. Any character that has a extremely large health bar. I think the only character you can't kill in a single hit is Hulk in his ult. Not Bruce Banner turning into Hulk, but when you are Hulk and then you use your ultimate, I think you get around 1,400 or 1,500 health, so you would not die instantly. Moving on to some of Iron Man's counters, he has quite a few, and that's something I just want to be honest about. For anyone who hasn't played him but wants to give him a shot, or anyone who's trying to get better with him. I mean, I think half of the actual roster of the entire game counters him. Anyone who's a hit scan, so Adam Warlock, Punisher, Hela, even people who aren't hit scans like Hawkeye, Mantis, I forgot about Luna Snow. Anyone who's a dive character with a lot of mobility, i.e. Spider-Man, Wolverine. I mean, the list goes on and on. You have so many different characters that can do so well against you. You're really playing against half the roster. So just take that into account when you're either trying to play him for the first time or you're trying to get better with him. If you're not playing with a Hulk or you're not playing with a Cloak and Dagger or Mantis, a support that can easily heal you, you're gonna have probably a rough time depending on what the enemy's playing. Now, it's not, all dreary and weary with Iron Man. You may have a lot of counters, but there are ways to deal with them, just like every single character. As far as the hit scans, you're just going to want to stick to walls like I was talking about before with positioning. If you have a corner you can fall back to, those hit scan characters are going to be a lot easier to deal with. You won't have to, be constantly running from them. You can just hide behind your wall, and if you're low, go to a health pack or wait for a support to heal you. The dive characters are a little different. If Spider-Man has his one-shot kill combo, you're kind of just screwed if he jumps on you if you can't get away fast enough. If an Iron Fist is jumping and trying to hit you, you really just need to use your hyper velocity to run away. Any of the hyper mobile characters that do a really good job at preventing you from enjoying the game are going to be a lot harder to deal with. So you've been warned. I've talked about the harder parts of Iron Man, but now we'll move on to characters that you specifically counter. On to the fun part, and the less depressing part, let's say. Who you counter. I'd say most of the tanks. Captain America, Venom, Groot, Thor, all of those characters you can do really, really solid damage against, especially with your Gamma Overdrive, and they really can't do anything back to you. Also, some of the duelist characters like Squirrel Girl, Moon Knight, anyone with a projectile that is slow moving and hard to kind of angle in the air and predict where you're going to be, they generally have a harder time against you. As for characters that you're kind of even against, Luna, Snow, and Mantis, I'd say with their kind of base kit, they do pretty well against you, but like I said before, you counter them with your ult. Also, Storm, it could go either way. It really depends on who's better. There's a lot of characters like that with Iron Man where if you're good enough, you can easily out-damage them, things like that. So just look out for, tanks you can damage, slow-moving characters that don't have a lot of range, like Magic. Magic is also another character you're really good against. Sure, she can get up to you with her little uppercut, but besides that, unless she's ulting, she has a really hard time getting to you. So we've talked a lot about, where to play, who to counter, who counters you, but a basic game of Iron Man is really going to look like you staying far away from most people, using your repulsor blast to deal good AoE damage, cycling through your armor overdrives, and occasionally, hopping in and out to use your unibeam to shred a tank. Also, knowing exactly when to use your ult to cancel another ult or take advantage of a team that's under the false pretense that they can be grouped up in front of an Iron Man. That's really the best way I would play Iron Man. It's how I personally play Iron Man, but just be wary of those dive characters and take advantage of those slow-moving heavy tanks. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. My previous videos, my previous two, have been doing really, really well, so I appreciate everyone who's subscribed, watched my video, liked, left me a nice comment, or even a constructive comment for how I can be doing better. I appreciate every interaction I get with my videos. So, thank you guys for watching. Quick shout out to all my friends. My friend Maddox helped me with some of the Iron Man clips in the beginning. That sneaky little 4K he got was pretty funny when we were playing together. James, Landon, Chelsea, Andrew, I appreciate all you guys. So I've been Chessa's dad. Have a good one.